Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you? I'm okay. Is it cold? Yes. Yeah, you're welcome to tell me what I feel comfortable here. So, how you respond to me will indicate. Yes. Maybe let's just take one round of introduction before we begin. Then I'll be the last one to introduce myself. Let's start on my right side.
My name is Alfred, and I'm a first year disaster management student.
And from your right.
I'm from KZN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe as we introduce one another, can you tell me where you come from? So that I've got a picture.
Good morning, sir. I'm Kwani. I'm from Wacha in Mpumalanga.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm from Cape Town.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, I'm Daniel. I'm from Mshlanga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Nahid. I'm from Cape Town as well.
Okay.
I'm Jeff. I'm from KZN.
Okay.
I'm Daniel. I'm from Pringle Bay,
From Western Cape.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I'm the father from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
I'm Carmen, and I'm from Washington, New York.
Okay.
I'm Brooklyn, and I'm also from Zimbabwe.
From Zimbabwe.
It's live.
From Zimbabwe. Okay, the provinces that are represented is Gauteng, Northern Cape, and Northwestern, but the rest is there. Okay. At least I've got an idea now, sir.
I am Wandile Glovu. I'm from Crimson.
Oh, all right. Now I'm glad to know you guys, and I feel honored to be here. My name is Dr. Temba Gola. I come from PE, born and bred in PE. Currently, I'm working for SASA as a grant. I've been a manager for Sarabana district. Maybe let me share my story before I come to my presentation. Where I come from. I was born and bred in PE, raised by a single mother. My dad passed away when I was 12. And then unfortunately, I was left with a single mother who was a domestic worker. I'm the eldest out of 4. Then the mother passed on in 1992. So at that age, yes, I was 24, 25. So I had to be a parent to my 3 siblings. I had to take care of them. Because by that time, both parents were not there. My first job was a security officer. I worked as a security officer for 10 years. Because it was cold outside the gate, I decided to do something that would bring me at least inside the building. Because most of the time I was working outside. I graduated twice as a security officer. During the day, I had to put on my uniform. After hours, I had to go and attend classes at what they used to call PE Technical, which is currently my university. That's where I started my tertiary career life. I think it was only after that, in 1996, that I started training administration. Yeah, after 10 years, and after 2 years in the postgraduate in security work, I had to sort something. I think I had to make up the lost time because in 1996 I got promoted 3 times to different positions. Then that's how I joined the management bachelor of I had a passion of teaching whilst I was employed as a skills development facilitator in the Western Cape Department of Health. I started facilitating training and doing training itself as well. I think it was based on that I fell in love with training and development. Then I did my master's in public administration, Nelson Mandela. And then thereafter I did my PhD through the Atlantic International University. So when I was invited here, then I became so excited because I felt that I needed to sort of energize and tell you that as you begin to build your career, there are people out there who were in worse situations, but that has refaced out of that environment. It was never an excuse that I came from a poor background, but to me, I was the person who had to drive my career to ensure that I move away from poverty. That's what triggered me in terms of my writings. I'm the author of 2 books, as you can see there. I will deliberate in terms of those books because I had first-hand information of poverty. I tasted poverty. I lived poverty. And it was through that poverty that triggered me to improve my life out of that environment to where I am today. I guess to you that may be a story. Because even my children are saying, Dad, you're talking about poverty, you never tasted poverty. And I said, I'm the product of poverty. So as we bring bring up the children, post apartheid era, talking about poverty and discrimination, something that you see in people. I went through that, and hence I'm here today. I'm glad to be here. I'm still here.
Do you think your love for teaching sprung from the fact that you had to take care of your siblings to the
Do you
Do you think your love for teaching and helping others sprung from the fact that you had to take care of your siblings to the
Yeah, look, the situation at that point in time forced me to be a responsible young man at that point in time. You can bear in mind that when I had to provide for electricity at that tender age. Remember the teenage years, the naughty, and all that, I had to take place of both dad and mom at that point in time. What triggered me was the fact that I was saying, if I could not improve that kind of situation that I was, then I would not have achieved what I wanted to achieve. Because I had always a dream. I had always a dream to be in an academic environment. The reason why I fell in love with teaching, it is because I'm a product of that. Because without education, I won't be here. You know, strange thing that happened. There was a year, this 10 years that I worked for the Department of Health as a security officer. Remember, I had colleagues. Then I went up the ladder. I left them there. When I came back to that institution as a senior admin officer, that was the one section that I had to supervise. Remember, I supervised people who were my colleagues. And at that point in time, I had to change their mindset as well. Because they were still seeing me as a security officer. Whilst now I had to take full responsibility of supervising them. And that triggered something in my mind to be saying, God gave you a brain, use it. You can't be here for it. Listen, for the talent that God gave you, improve yourself. I fell in love with teaching because, one, you share the experience. Two, you improve the lives of others. Now, when I was invited to come here, I became excited because I like to share my story. Two, I like to contribute to the people to improve their particular careers. So, hence, I fell in love with the issue of teaching. Was that the only question before I move in? Are we cool? Yeah. So this is basically the reason why that I fell in love with teaching. Because Madiba once said education is the key. And I believe it can open any door. It can open any door. So hence, if we invest in education, we don't have regrets. Because with materialistic assets, you can lose them overnight, but no one can take away your qualification, your skills. They remain there with you. And you are able to know in each and every day, because there's something that is guaranteed that you eat that will wait for you forever. Okay. I'm not going to zoom in that much there. That's my history, which I think I have shared with you in terms of different institutions in South Africa that I studied through up to the last one. I think there my interest is an issue of those two books, which are going to be part of what I'll be discussing today with you. But what comes with me are those two books, which I had to write in terms of the experiences that I got, in terms of because that is based on my personal experience, on my academic, and with the services that I rendered. I did not tell you currently I am the manager from SASA, the South Africa Pays Grant. I manage that section, which I'll be telling you later on, in Sarabhatman. And Port Alfred is part and one of those towns that I service within Sarabhatman. So when it comes to the issue of poverty alleviation, SASA is one of the entities that are ensuring that there's poverty alleviation or poverty reduction. We play a partial role in that. Although I'm saying personally, that should not be the sole intervention that we sort of introduce when it comes to the issue of poverty alleviation. We will deal with more when it comes to that. Then, as I'm saying that, I feel honored to be here today to share with you. I hope you'll be gaining something from my preparation. I'll also be gaining something from you in terms of understanding the current situation that we're in. Most of the issues maybe that I might be mentioning, as I said to you, looking at the ages that are here, you read them on paper and have been part of them. So yeah, we will deal with those. As I'm saying that my first book was based on the thesis that I wrote in order for me to qualify for my doctorate in social science. That was a prerequisite for me to acquire that qualification, which I'll be sharing that with you. The second book talks about poverty and inequality resolutions, which I have mentioned in my book. As I'm saying that, my second book is a continuation of the first one, because the issue of social grants or social assistance is one of the approaches that we do in terms of reducing poverty. You are the student of disaster management. My analysis and definition of disaster, in most cases we make a mistake of waiting for the crisis to happen and then we come up with disaster management. And my approach is to be saying, prevention is better than cure. There are mechanisms that we can do in terms of trying to circumvent the issue of disaster to happen. I normally look at the COVID-19. COVID-19 is something that just recently happened, and it was a disaster. It was a global disaster. There are few lessons that I've learned out of COVID-19. One lesson that I've learned from COVID-19 that I'm not sure about the other countries, but I'll analyze Africa and South Africa particularly. Because when pandemic was striking during that period, it caught us off guard. One, it means we never had contingency plan to deal with disaster. With disaster in all these departments, either infrastructure, economy, health, you name and all the other departments. I was looking at the issue of the hospitals. If you remember in PE, they had to build a Temba hospital. They had to build because when COVID-19 hit everyone, everything came to a standstill. Everyone was panicking, people were sick, and unfortunately, the government was ill-prepared to deal with the disaster. To an extent, some other people died. Now, what I learned out of that is that we never anticipated a disaster like that because it was a global one. Because each and every country had to deal with its own disaster. The vaccines that we get, I remember our president was saying the rich countries bought everything in terms of the drugs that ought to have been used. And we had to depend on these big countries to supply South Africa. And in the meantime, people are dying. People are dying. When the hospitals were full, private hospitals were full, public hospitals were full. And that hit everyone. Now, to an extent that it sort of put us on a compromised situation to be saying that we are not prepared to deal with that kind of a disaster. Now, we reacted on the disaster, and we had to manage the disaster. Instead of saying, this is what we need to do in terms when the disaster can come in, and as if we did not learn from the AIDS. If you remember during the Thabo Mbeki era, when AIDS hit everyone, they tried to politicize in terms of coming up with a vaccine or drug to deal with HIV, and they were trying to analyze what is causing AIDS and not causing AIDS and how to close that gap. People died. I was also a victim because my brother died in that period. You see, so if we do not plan for disaster in time, then we manage the disaster, or the disaster will redirect us because we will respond after it hit us. So those are the few lessons that I've learned when it comes to the issue of disaster management and the social economic problem that we have in our country. Now, I also speak about the issue of social assistance. That's one part that also created a panic. Because remember, economically, there was no activity because the businesses closed, government departments closed, everything was closed. And hence the issue of social assistance that brought about the new SRD COVID-19 grant as intervention during the that period. And the social assistance was part of that. That grant will always be a reminder of us, of the casualties of COVID-19. Hence, it is called even now 350 COVID. SRD is social distress, social relief of distress, which is an immediate intervention to deal with grants of the people who cannot afford. And remember, that was a response to the disaster that happened. Now, my approach, as I said to you, I do not blame social assistance that we are getting in South Africa in terms of those grants. I will indicate some of those grants. We've got old age grants, we've got disability grant, we've got child support grant, we've got grant in payment, what else? We've got SRD, we've got child support top-up grant, you name it. Those are the grants that the government implemented to ensure that it reduces poverty. And SASA's responsibility is to ensure that we reduce poverty. I fell in love with the topic in a sense that at times you could see the smile of the person who never knew where the next meal would be coming. And when you have approved that grant, if you can see the smile of that person, because now I know that each and every 4th of the month, there will be income that will come my way in order for me to look after my children. We deal with so vulnerable beneficiaries to an extent that when you meet with them, and they will be saying, you made a difference in my life and with the children. And that's a kind of intervention that the social class is doing. But I'm saying, again, when it comes to that, we've got SASA alone cannot be working or resolve socio-economic problems of the country. Because sometimes we'll have a disaster. For instance, I was there at some stage when the disaster, I think there was a flood here at one stage. 2 months ago?
2 months ago.
Yeah, 2 months ago there was a flood. And we had to go and do the assessment of these victims. When we visited the people that have been identified to be the victims of the disaster, I discovered that some of these people, you know, when you sit in the shack, inside the shack, you can see through outside. You are inside, but you can see through. Meaning that the condition of the shack where this old or this young mother is raising about 3 children in this one house. Now, we discovered that more about the issue of the disaster that has been caused by flood. These people have got other socio-economic problems. And because of that, we had to involve other government stakeholders to be saying, in terms of the Constitution, this is not our mandate. Our mandate is to analyze the situation and provide assistance as SASA in terms of our mandate from the Constitution. But we need human settlement to come in. We need social development to come in with the assessment. We need the municipality to come and check what role can they play. So my attitude when it comes to that is that over above the issue of SASA intervening through the social plans, we need all the other stakeholders. We need business to come and say, we need Department of Labor to come and say, are these people registered as job seeking from the database? And those are the issues which I'm saying we need an integrated approach to fight poverty. But social grants alone cannot resolve that. And I'm saying again, poverty has a direct impact on crime, and it undermines the human rights. And this leads to a national disaster which affects the life of the society in any community. I'm saying, when you look at the increasing number of crimes committed when we do the analysis, currently we've got about 45% of unemployed qualified people who are suffering in the labor market. 45%. Now, if you talk about 45%, that was almost half of the population not working. Now, if we go back to the statistics, out of this 45%, we've got about 70% of the young people who are supposed to be employed, out of that 45%. The unfortunate part, which is actually frustrating me as an academic, is to discover that amongst these unemployed young people, there are graduates. There are graduates who are not employed. Now, there are two questions that one is asking. We've got a person who's never been to a tertiary institution, who is successful, whether through crime or whatever means that the person has decided to do education themselves. We've got an honest graduate who's sitting at home being frustrated, who's unemployed. That person is so vulnerable in the sense that when it comes to the skills, remember that person in most cases, that person was funded by NASFAS to be there and graduate. But after that, there are no plans to ensure that we have funded the education, but beyond that, are we able to ensure that we create employment for you? Let's take a BCom student who's sitting at home. You sit at home and say, what can I do? You'll be tempted to be involved in crime because you've got skills. Remember, you've got other needs that you need to take care of. I'm not promoting any crime, but I'm saying the current situation of unemployment, socio-economic problem that are happening in our country, are tempting especially the young ones to be involved in crime, which they never intended. We have situations where these networks of these special financial institutions have been hacked. Those systems are hacked by IT students or graduates that are sitting at home. And they started to use their skills in a wrong way because they had to fulfill their own needs as well. So that's a disaster that we're sitting at when we have a situation where we've got tertiary institutions that train young people to graduates and equip them in a particular skills. But when it comes to the labor market, they are not included in the labor market. And that has a direct impact on crime. Now, when it comes to the, as I was saying, unemployment undermines human rights. You know, when I visited that shop here in Alfred, I still have a picture of that home. There is no confidentiality, there is no privacy, because if someone can see these people from outside, it means there is no privacy inside. You can see they share one house, which they are doing everything there. They have visitors. Unfortunately, there's no movement that they can do. It compromises their human rights. And that's what poverty does to the people who are vulnerable. And so I will zoom in terms of the other issues that my books are talking about when it comes to the poverty and what triggered poverty and what triggered me to write these two books. As I was saying that the first book, which is this one, this book comes from my thesis, which was based on the topic effective, efficient, and economic ways of paying social grants in terms of that at 16 of as amendment of 2020. This book is also there's a collaboration between the book and that as well. Because, as I was saying, the book is unpacking the type of grants, the criteria which is used to ensure that people qualify for the grants that are really on. It talks about different types of grants. I spoke about foster care. I spoke about child support. I spoke about child support top-up grant. I spoke about disability grant. I spoke about the granted aid. I spoke about old age grant. So those are the types of grants that are articulated in that particular book. And what are the criteria in terms of that? And then again, the book is talking about the different ways of paying social grants. Maybe let me come up with a background here. SASSA in South Africa was actually using two methods of paying social grants. The first one, SASSA had a contract with the service provider. That is the pay until the contract expired, after series of extensions until there was a court case, until the court declared that this contract is illegal and it should be terminated. Then thereafter, SASSA had to get a new service provider, which was postpaid through the post office. That one continued until post office had a crisis. We all knew post office financial problems, branches were closed. Then SASSA was then forced to explore the other avenues. We had what we call gold cards that were manufactured by postpaid through the post office with SASSA. And beneficiaries of SASSA were using this gold card to access their social grants. And then again, you could use the very same debit card to access the grant through the ATM, through the post office itself, and through the merchants at the post office, at the supermarkets. So these were the three ways. The fourth one was the cash payment. Cash payment, the post office and postpaid do cash payments. And because of the termination and the problems, legal problems between post office and SASSA, then the time had to come when we had to look at other alternative ways of paying social grants. And this is where I came in now. Now, my research topic was based on what I was doing on a daily basis, because I was dealing with this on a daily basis. That was part of my functions. The unfortunate part where I said to myself, let's look globally within the region. What is the current status quo? What is the current status quo? How do people access social grants? I first looked at my own district, which is Sarabakman. You go to the places, we had a place, in fact it's still there, a place which is called Kleplat. Kleplat is a small farm town with no supermarket, with no ATM, with no bank. Now, if you come up with a methodology, unfortunately, we had clients there that must access social grants. Now, if you look at this current environment, how do you then ensure that even those people are accommodated? The second one, we have a town which is called Patterson. Patterson is on the way to R62 from PE to Credo. You go to that town. That town does not have formal supermarkets. There are no banks. Now I have to analyze that situation. information. Fortunately, there were ATMs. You come to this one. This one, we have almost everything. The supermarkets are here, the banks are here. So my research topic then had to analyze all this environment to be saying, what could be the most effective way of paying these social grants? The first challenge that I had as a researcher was to be saying, we've got the variety of clientele that we're dealing with. Some other people do not have access or are not competent internet. Even if you will be able to make this debit card, this person is unable to go and withdraw the money from the ATM. There's a dependence from this person to say, we make this card. Hence, when I was making my interviews to the different beneficiaries, I learned that there were still people that were still comfortable to get their money over the counter. It is because you will take and hand over your debit card to the teller on the other side. The teller will then process your payment, you get your cash. It was easy like that. Now, you have people that ought to be relying on the ATMs. Now, with the ATM, you need some time to go to strangers and ask strangers. Now, you compromise the PIN code. You know the problem that we have with ATMs and the scams that are going on there. Now, all people become reluctant to be handing over their personal information to the stranger. Because it becomes a risk now. You actually transfer the risk, your own compromise of personal information. So that becomes another challenge. But the other issue with regards to the supermarket, some supermarkets took advantage of the beneficiary in a sense that the requirements from them was to be saying, you ought to purchase a certain percentage of your product for you to do or to get the cash back. So these were different problems that the beneficiaries were getting. Now, when I was doing my research, we had to deal with these different problems. Now, the most issue that I referred to when it comes to collecting the grants through the post offices, you go to Uncut. The service provider was actually doing the cash payment as a community. It's not embarrassing that all people will sleep outside the hall overnight in order for them to wait for the post office to lock up the following day at 10 o'clock. We, at some stages, people died whilst waiting or sleeping outside because of cold. And because remember, these are all people, some of them are sick people. But the only way that they could access their money was to wait for the post office to come the following morning. But in order for them to be first in the queue, they had to sleep outside all night. So we had to deal with this kind of a thing, as I was referring to my presentation, when it comes to compromising the human dignity. Because it cannot be a human dignity that people, because part of our, in terms of Maslow's hierarchy, is social needs, is protection. Now, if we have all people sleeping outside the whole night, that then triggers something from you to be saying, how do we then reduce this? But remember, on the other side, these are the people that are comfortable when it comes to getting their cash and getting on. So, when I was actually doing the research, those were part of the things that I had to take into consideration when it comes to different ways of paying social grants. Until I came up with this recommendation to be saying, we have these different types of grants. We have technology that can deal with that. For instance, there's an issue of saying, how do we ensure that we get the other stakeholders, for instance, like financial institutions. We've got financial institutions like banks, commercial banks. We've got these companies, cell phone companies that have their own IT as well for USSD, where they could consider the cash sign there, and then that grant could, a voucher, cash voucher, could be created there. What is it that we can do in terms of taking advantage of the IT that we have and as part of the IT system that we have in South Africa, so that we can ensure that people are able to access their cards? We have clientele that are young, child support grant. Those are the young mothers who are at least community literate that can take advantage of the IT. You see, those are the social grants through what they are able to do. Now, how do we then ensure in a village that those beneficiaries are not disadvantaged? And my issue was to be saying, we've got traditional leadership that are there. We've got supermarkets that are there. Why are we not having relations with the supermarkets so that supermarkets can also play a role in terms of the catch with the ones within that space? Although that does not go without challenges. The first challenge that we had, in those villages, sometimes we talk about power, there's no electricity, there's no infrastructure, there are no towers for the cell phones. So my point was to be saying, let's let all the other stakeholders, like these cell phone companies, if they invest in terms of the infrastructure in those villages, is created so that we can promote the issue of infrastructure development there, because these are economic infrastructure that have a long-term benefits out of those. Power can be generated, data can be done, IT can be created there. Because even the very same shops that are there, if they want to introduce whatever IT system, they can still depend on the power, they can depend on the cell phone tower that is there in order for them to utilize the IT system that is there. The other issue was to ensure that how do we then get the buy-in from the people, community in that particular village to be saying, we reduce the traveling from the village to the town. If you go to former Transkei, people are easily traveling about 100 kilometers from the village to a town. Sometimes they pay about 300 rand, you see, to town. Child support grant, let's say this person gets support grants. If you get a child support grant for one child, you're getting about 550. What is this person left with? 200 rands. Is it worthwhile? Is it fair that we are saying to these beneficiaries, arrange your own transport, pay 200 rands, SASA is paying you 550, and you only retain 200 rands? So in order for us to ensure that we take these services to the people, we ought to come up with an integrated approach so that we can ensure that whatever the other stakeholders can provide in terms of what their money is, they can come into the table so that we can see which role can each stakeholder play in this regard, so that we ensure that they play that role, so that we are able to say we've got that effective economic and efficient way of paying social grants. So I was actually saying again that government alone cannot do that function. Government is not a financial institution. there are financial institutions. Government does not provide infrastructure like cell phone towers, but there are companies, cell phone companies that provide that function. ESCOM, as a government, a state enterprise institution, then can come up and join hands so that we can provide that particular space. Over and above, we need the stakeholder, other stakeholders, which are the communities, to embrace whatever that we actually presenting, so that at the end of the day, the communities can take ownership. What frustrates me the West is this one. I stay in PE, and I see how the state infrastructure is organized. And my own was to be saying, and part of what I wrote in that particular book is the destruction of the economic infrastructure. And I'm saying, this infrastructure have been introduced for the benefit of the communities. What role can we play as communities to secure those infrastructure, so that at the end of the day, we say we protect what we benefit from, and not say this is the infrastructure that belongs to Telkom. We steal copper pipes, we steal the batteries from the cell phone towers, and once that happens, it means there's no communication in that particular village. And this is what we need in terms of the ownership, to be saying the communities, these are the roles that we want to play. And this is what is contained in my second book as well. So, as I'm saying that the financial institutions, I have interviews with them to be saying that here's a project that has been introduced that can bring business to you. As a result, I had engagement with a lot of banks in the whole district. We sit down, we strategize whatever we did, what we said is it was migration of beneficiaries from the post office to the commercial banks. And I think we had a project of 3 months. In that 3 months, we migrated about 90%. We migrated about 90%, which was part of the recommendation of my thesis in that particular book. As a result, as I'm speaking to you right now, we have introduced 100% migration using this method of payments that we have, which was part of my recommendation in my thesis. Let's now come up to the second book. As I was saying, I'm not so quite sure if I should pause there for questions before I go to the second book. Do we have any questions on this first presentation?
Let's go.
There's a question there?
You talked about unemployment around about 48%, 45%.
Yeah.
With degrees and qualified. But it also takes into account the unemployment rates of people that don't want to work but have the degree and everything. So how would you influence them or combat that situation? It could be like 10%, and then that 10% could affect you quite drastically.
Okay. You see, what I normally say with graduates, I don't want, especially the tertiary institutions, to instill a wrong mindset to the graduates. We are not giving skills to be employed. Let me repeat this. We are equipped, we are giving skills to sustain this. Employment is one of those mechanisms, but we can still employ people. So, because I think we have a wrong mindset to be saying that we've gone to school in order to get better chances of employment. And I'm saying, I look at the training at this environment to be saying there are multiple approaches for self-sustaining. One, it can be employment, which is a traditional one. Two, you take initiative to say, I want to create my own business. You see, I want to create my own business so that I can also employ the others. I don't think a person can spend about 4 years and say thereafter, I don't want to take initiative if I'm unemployed when I sit down. Well, remember your skills, and if those skills are not utilized, then you become frustrated. You see, I want us to adopt that attitude of saying, we do not depend on people to employ us, but we can also take initiative in terms of us creating our own chances of employing others. Meaning that creating our own spaces like companies to ensure, South Africa, when it comes to their entities that is with the project, I find the project is young to be saying that I have been qualified on this, but I need funding. And they will be saying, please prepare a business plan. Prepare a business plan. NYTA is one of those. NTA is one of them. CETA is another one. They fund the young graduates. Where you come and do a concept, a business concept, and say, this is what we want to do. And they fund and guide you, coach you. And I've seen a lot of projects where those projects have been created by you. And you get that successful. And I want us to sort of adopt that particular mindset to say that we are not trained to do it, but we are trained to penetrate the labor market, either being employers or being employees in the labor market. So I think that's a concept that I want to instill so that we don't become frustrated when we do not get employment. I'm sure I covered. All right. Another question?
Just one question though. Directly to SASA, do you have any relationship with other stakeholders within the government entities? It was mentioned that SASA cannot combat poverty. And I believe SASA is one of the strategies in making sure that at least we do something, because poverty undermines everything that we try to do in terms of mitigating disasters. Do you have any relationships with the infrastructure, with other departments?
Okay. Look, we have what we call social cluster. Let me start there. We've got social cluster, that is NPA, NYPA, is SASA, is social development. These are the four entities in social cluster. The reason that we integrate that, it is because we have different socio-economic problems that are seen within that social cluster. For instance, there was a one that has been now developed, maybe you want to hear it. SASA database is automatically linked to NASFAS. A person who has a social grant beneficiary, once you complete your high school, is automatically you should qualify for NASFAS. That's a relationship that has been created. So that we don't duplicate that and create an unnecessary red tape. Well, by the virtue of this person qualifying for social grant, it means there are no means. You automatically qualify for NASFAS. That's one fine. The second one is, in terms of our projects, we integrate with these four national entities to be saying, in each and every financial year, how do we then plan our activities as the four entities? So that in this financial year, we can then begin to sort of streamline and plan accordingly. SASA, our mandate is paying social grants. But obviously, our beneficiaries are social development beneficiaries. Because those people qualify for those projects. A social development they've got their own project which they are funding each and every financial year. So we identify these stakeholders, we share information. If, for instance, currently we're looking at the target, there's a target in terms of our operational plan that we will not reaching of the children between 0 and 1. And we're saying which stakeholders can be tackled. Then we identify the pattern of action. Because children there are born every day at the hospital. On the 20th of October, we'll be launching a registration site in Alfred Hospital, where we've got partnership between the hospital and Department of Home Affairs. When Home Affairs register on the National Population Register, those children, they issue them with birth certificate, we screen those children immediately. If they qualify, they go to social grants. So that is a collaboration that we've agreed with other stakeholders. So we've got a partnership between Department of Health and Department of Home Affairs. On quarterly basis, what we call integrated outreach programs. Those are outreach programs. We call communities. We come and introduce our mobile services. All those departments will converge there. Especially where we are ordinarily, we are not accessing that space. Then we call all the government departments to converge, come and bring those services to the communities as a group now of different departments. We will invite all these departments. First, what we do, we do what we call household profiling. Household profiling will then indicate what are the social economic problems. If it's crime, if it's HIV, if it's teenage pregnancy, if it's drug abuse, if the problem is housing, is water. Once we establish these are the predominant problems that we have, then what we do as coordinators of those outreach programs, we invite all those departments to converge them and we offer those services there. You see, as a team. So this is what we're trying to do to integrate our programs. So because we're saying we target the same communities, sometimes we waste the resources of the state because we repeat whatever intervention that we have. We've been there, and after a month, social development will be there. After a month, Department of Health will be there. And we are saying, why don't we collect everyone? These are the departments that belong to the state, that are funded by the state. Let's come and render this service once and for all, because our target is one. So this is what we are promoting. We don't want to work in silos. And we are saying, and in terms of even my recommendations then, in my book, I'm saying the best approach is integration. Because together we can do more. Because we cannot work in isolation or in silos. The more we work together, the better way of coordinating and providing those services that people make. So that's the current attention that we have currently. Are we good, right? Are we sure? Okay. Then we can come up to my second book. My second book, this book was published last year. It was published on my birthday, 19th of April last year. That book, as I'm saying, that is a continuation of what is contained there. And I'm saying in this book, I've analyzed the current socio-economic problem that we have. And I'm saying I have found the relationship between poverty and inequality. Poverty and inequality, I have established that there's a relationship between these two. And because of that, what is that? What is the current status? That's my Now, I'm not talking academic, I'm talking what is currently happening within the communities or the society. And as I was saying there in my first book, that part of the reason that we got social grants is to alleviate or reduce poverty. And this one I'm saying, how do we then come up with resolutions that will reduce inequalities and poverty? Because obviously, if you are poor, you are unable to access certain quality of services. And automatically that creates a problem. If you have resources, we are in a better position to access quality services. Let's analyze this picture. I want you to tell me about your interpretation of this picture. Can I get one student? Tell me, analyze this picture. What does it say to you? Let me say to you. What's your name again?
Alfred.
Yeah, let's get it. What do you analyze of the picture? What is the picture showing you?
That there's inequality. What I see.
There's inequality. Okay, unpack that. I'm coming to you.
That's some people are actually, some people are poor. There's not as many resources available to the poor community as to the rich community.
Thank you. Answer.
Showing the line between poverty and wealth, showing that the 1% of the population holds the wealth versus the resources that they have to sort of find themselves.
All right. Thank you. Any other inputs? Let's come to you. What does this picture tell you? Fine line between poverty and inequality. Okay? Let's hear you say.
From my understanding is the poor people is actually the region become each other. What is the poor people?
Hello?
So that is inequality because there's poor people and rich people.
All right. Let's come to you.
So I'm going to by the 199%. I don't quite know 199%.
Okay.
So you get rid of the topic.
Okay. All right. If you look at this picture, look above. You see this? There's a line between the two. This can tell you poverty is written all over. Can you see? Poverty is written all over again. When you visit the place without asking anyone, you can do your own evaluation. There's poverty written all over that environment. But if you can't do it, you can say this, that the people that are living comfortable life. And unfortunately, this is what South Africa is about currently. When it comes to human rights, we've got regulations, acts of parliament that are trying to close this gap between rich and poor. Legally, these are the regulations that we're talking about. We have affirmative action, we have equity, and all the other prescripts that are propagated on a daily basis to ensure that people are not discriminated in terms of their social status. That's the first thing. South African Constitution also speaks about equality. It speaks about equality. In my book also, I'm referring to the issue of gender equality. It's not about gender equality because more about what we see here physically. There is a culture, especially in Africa, of us as men to see ourselves as inferior, as superior against females. And it has been a trend for quite some time, to an extent that it had some negative impact to the society. Do you know what Ukutwala means? You don't know. Ukutwala is a terminology which is used especially in rural areas where young girls are forced to marry the old men against their will. As long as the parents have agreed. You have a young girl who speaks at school, you have old male that is already working without this poor child knowing what is happening. You don't even know this man. They discuss behind your back. They sort of capture you, boom, you wake up in that man's household. And now that has been something that we are saying in terms of human rights. You cannot be treating human beings like that. But it has been a practice for quite some time. To an extent that when you ask old people, and she'll be saying this all around, I have never fallen in love with that man. I learned to love him once I was 20, because I was about to. And those were practices where, in terms of democracy, they say it's totally wrong. One, that the person must choose whom you love. Two, in most probabilities, in terms of the economy, massive, the man is most time advantageous compared to this one, because this is a child who speaks for both common resources. Now, because of the financial transactions between these two families, they end up compromising their own child because of the financial needs that they get. That also created a problem because these old people, maybe they are working the mines, they come with HIV, they come with infection, you get a patient, and you speak to this patient for the first time, you infect this person. And you never know because it's a stranger to you. And And we say it cannot be that the issue of equality or inequality can be controlled during the democratic era in our country. So these are the issues that we have to say to men, that you don't say men and you say a sex story. There's a human being just like you. She's got her own rights, which must be protected. And this is part of my presentation in England. But moreover about that, I analyze the challenges that we have in terms of the rich and the poor. As I said, in terms of accessing the facilities, there is a current national health insurance fund that is highly congested currently. I think the government wanted to introduce a system where all citizens are able to receive quality health care. It is because in the public institutions, there's a tendency of us, or even to that, I don't believe in communities, because when you access that institution, it seems as if the attitude of the civil servants is that an extent that when they offer this service, it seems as if they are doing you a favor. You see, once the government is actually funding that particular institution, and you find institutions when you go there, there's no medicines. There's a shortage of staff. To an extent that, as I was saying to you, the embarrassment that we find ourselves in when it comes to the COVID-19, when those hospitals could not deal with the disaster that we had. And those are realities. And I understand the concept of the new national insurance fund that they're actually trying to bring in order for us to be saying all the citizens in South Africa qualify to access quality health care. And this is part of what I'm saying here. So that we close the gap of saying those that can afford are the only people who qualify. But sometimes the way that we think is to an extent that some other people die in public institutions because of negligence or because of the lack of resources that the public institutions have. You see, whose lives could have been saved, and because of the inequality that has been created. The second issue is as I was saying, I made an example here of the people who stay in the rural area. In the rural area, one, in most rural areas, there is no power. ESCOM is not providing that service. People are still using that old way of cooking. They go to the field or they go to the forest, collect wood, and make wood to prepare for the meal of the day. That then made a situation where people, when you go to that village, you lose signal. There's no signal. You can't communicate because there are no towers. And that's a practicality. Now, if we're saying, we talked about the fourth revolution in terms of the IT. Are we saying those people still access the services that we from urban areas, national revolution, that they are supposed to be accessing? If they cannot access the network, pure thing of communicating, the power, the light, electricity, they can't access that. You see? And automatically, even the infrastructure, the road, there are people, you know, I watched a program in the SABC. These people had a funeral on that particular day. There is no bridge between this village and the other. But when they had to bring the corpse in a coffin, they had to carry the coffin upon their shoulders to cross the river, literally the river, to go on the other side. And this is not a movie story. These are realities of life. And you are saying, if that is the case, how do we then say there's equality? How do we ensure that the infrastructure that we have is made for everyone? How do we then invest? Because in most cases, if we do not invest in terms of our resources in rural communities, that is where urbanization is happening. People move from the rural areas to come and seek better lives in the urban areas. And this is why people are flocking in urban areas, because this is where they get better life. So when we are not equalizing the ground, we find this number of challenges that we have. The second issue, I'm saying the fair implementation of economic policies to improve equalities. I'm saying that I'm critical when it comes to that. South Africa is one of the best countries when it comes to policies. But one of the best. But my point is, when it comes to the implementation of those policies to ensure equality. We had BEE, triple BEE, we had equity. Those were the policies that were meant to transform the economy. Here's what happened. Only few individuals benefited out of those policies. It is because those policies were hijacked that to an extent that politicians were the most people who benefited out of those policies, once the policies are there. And we have that situation where we are saying that on paper, any person who can come from Europe and have a look in our policies would be saying, man, but South Africa is very good. But go to the society and see the impact of those policies. Whether those policies are actually implemented when it comes to the common people accessing those policies. Currently, did we hear about the, what do we call it, construction mafias? Did you hear about that? Construction mafias, if you have a look at the TV tonight, yeah? Because it becomes part of that almost every day. It is because in the economic policies made a provision for 30% of those communities in that particular area whosoever got a tenant to be saying, at least 30% of what that company was awarded should be invested to those communities of that particular village. Whether we say that at least employ or subcontract 30% under PE so that those people can benefit. Even if we are here in Alfred, if you decide to appoint a contractor from Joburg, then at least 30% of that must be secured for people locally. What has happened? The gangsters started to demand 30% from the construction without doing anything. They call it protection order. Did you hear about the term protection order? Yeah. Have a look on the TV. And I'm saying this is predominant in the Eastern Cape. It happens to others because I think it started in KZN and it spread to us as Eastern Cape. It happened in Western Cape and Joburg as well. And those are the gaps that we find in our economic policies. How do we then ensure that we close those gaps? If we have policies, if we've got acts of parliament that were meant to ensure that we have got equity, why is it that we still have the gap between rich and poor? It is because we have policies, but those policies were actually abused by those in power for self-addition. This is basically what we get currently. The other issue which I have articulated in my presentation is the issue of food security and job creation. And I'm saying food security should not be an issue. Food security shouldn't be an issue. South Africa predominantly is rural. We have fields to plow. Why are we depending on the foreign exchange to rely either on chicken or meals, whilst we can plow that in our own country? If the government is talking about ensuring that we are promoting local economic development, what is it that we are doing in terms of ensuring that those farmers, small farmers, are actually monitored, they are funded, they are pushed, they are supported? So that when it comes to the issue of food security, we are able to say, at least we've got natural resources that we can talk about. You see, the issue of job security, I'm saying that, no investor can be eager to come and invest in a corrupt country where there is fraud is at the highest level, corruption is the highest level. Because investors, at the end of the day, there was a problem in Cape Town. This person had a bar and a club. Apparently, for quite some years, this guy has been paying protection fee. He only released this information when he was overseas. The story was publicized, and when the reporters were asking me, why were you hired upon this and not disclosing this? And he said, I would have been dead by now. And we have reached that situation, and the guy had to close the business. In Uncut, I was told recently, 3 filling stations were closed because of the protection fee that was given. This guy actually was paying 5 million per month. He was paying 5 million a month for protection fee. And if you can just calculate that, 2 months, you talk about 10 million. How much is this person making? This guy has to pay creditors, he has to pay the staff, and I'm still saying, is there something that we can do in ensuring that we protect the investors? And I have challenged, I'm still challenging even now the crime intelligence to be saying, how do we then allow a situation where investors in our country are doing these huge monies because of the protection fee that are being charged instead of the law enforcement agencies to be doing their job before we lose the investors. The direct impact of the investors closing shops is adding to the unemployment. And if we have unemployment, it goes directly to crime. Because these are the people who've got dependencies that are depending on them. And if now you close shop and there's no income, how do you think those people will sustain and take care of those children that are still at school, the wife that is still working? Then I was also saying that in my book, I also spoke about the lack of financial management in accountability. And I'm saying if ESCOM was accused in terms of corruption, and that's what led to load shedding, SAA at one stage collapsed, and the other government entities closed. The question is, how do you then ensure that people were held responsible and comes to the state institutions. That's why the book is included. And the book is also talk about the role of education in poverty reduction. And I'm saying, I'm the direct beneficiary of that. And I'm saying, should I have not improved my qualification, I will be here. How much would I be earning right now as a civil office if I was not improving or I could not improve my qualification at that point in time? I remember my first salary, I started working in 1986. I think my first salary was about 1,500 a month. 1986. I don't know how much they pay currently, but what I do know that security officers would not manage to sustain the current challenges and the demands of the economy. Taking a child to school, taking a child to university. So if I did not go to university, I would still be the situation. Hence, I would say, when it comes to the role of education in poverty reduction, it can be an issue because of that question that was raised there. Because once you become educated, you are either employed or you become an employer. And once you become an employer, you reduce poverty or you employ people. Once a person has got an income, that person is able to take care of the dependencies of the family members the person has. Same applies when the person is employed, when you come higher the chances. You might not be employed today, but if you are qualified, you've got better chances of getting employment. So this is what I'm saying in that book. Now, when it comes to the conclusion, I'm saying the book is aimed, in fact, both books are aimed at analyzing the current situation in our country. It also is promoting our strategies that we can use in terms of fighting poverty. The second one is that the effective way of paying social grants or social assistance. Obviously, people are no longer queuing, sitting outside the whole night to waiting to be paid the next day. We're able then to ensure that people are paid through the channels that they have chosen. If you got a debit card from the commercial minister, if you don't want to go to the ATM, you can go to the supermarket, get your money, you can go to the bank, you can go to the ATM, wherever you are, at any given point in time. You don't have to sleep outside. So we sort of revive the human rights and the dignity that people lost during the process. Because at this point in time, people do not have to sleep outside all night to waiting for the payment of the social grants in the number two, the other issue is that, as the question was asked by Mutando, they say, what is the role, how do we ensure that we work with other stakeholders? As I'm saying, there are continuous engagement with the stakeholders to ensure that we have integrated plans to ensure that we ensure better lives for all. As Matilda was saying, we make a better life for all. When we work together, that's what it says as well, we can do more. And this is what we are doing currently in ensuring that we fight poverty together to ensure that people are able to access the services and reduce poverty through the integrated strategies that we have as different stakeholders. The other issue we have this way, as I was saying, that integrated processes that we have. And again, the challenges to be overcome. Obviously, we still have few challenges that we still have to overcome. It's not walk in the park. There are still some challenges that we still have to work through in ensuring that we do not wait. I will always make a reference to COVID-19. we do not wait for the disaster to strike before we run around. We should be able to say poverty is a national disaster. And if poverty is a national disaster, we should be able to come up with mitigating strategies to ensure that we reduce poverty. Because once we reduce poverty, then we sort of revive the human dignity. We treat people equally. We see people as equal to us. And even in terms of the resources and the services that people are able to access, other resources that we all able to access as humankind. Yeah. I think that was my story. Yeah. Then I've got some books there. I can't use this one. This one is 200 rands. This one is 250. I think I've got 3 copies of this one. I've got 1 copy of that one. So
How much for the students?
for the student price, let's say this one we can make it 200. That one we can make 180. That one. That's the best I can do.
Can you find these books at like I would say local library, not local library, like a bookstore? Like there was one in Roseville that's
Okay, this one you can get in selective bookstores. In selective bookstores, again, which another one? Okay. Exclusive books, bargain book. Although I terminated a contract with them because they abused me, so I'm selling from hand. This one you can get it online, ebooks. You can get it on ebooks. Either get it on ebooks or you order directly from me.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. That was very insightful. I'm glad that you speak because these guys are the future of this country. And in terms of disaster risk reduction, we all know poverty and inequality is undermined every initiative. And the points that you raised, I'm sure now when we're going back, sitting and reflecting, on the ways on how we can implement this was a great and very exciting information. Thank you very much. As members, I'm sure now we want to have this class. With regard to the main session, guys, please come to my office after 45 minutes. Okay? Thank you very much. Any last words from you guys? Anyone? Thank you.
I was just say, thank you for joining us for my lecture, this information. I really enjoyed
Yeah, I just want to say the same thing. I read your book this week. I still missed a surprise copy. And it was really nice to have it explained in person and understand the story even better so that we can share it.
Thanks a lot.
We have 5 copies in our library, guys.